Have you ever looked at someone you thought you knew, only to realize the person staring back at you wasn't really there? That's exactly what happened the last time I saw Gucci Mane. It wasn't just a change in vibe or mood, it was like his soul had vanished, leaving only a familiar body with an unfamiliar presence. And what I'm about to tell you, it goes far beyond a simple meltdown. There were secrets, plans, and forces at play that no one outside that room could ever imagine. By the end of this video, you might start questioning everything you thought you knew about him. Y'all acting scared to talk to me now, like, suddenly nobody knows what's going on. Do whatever you want, because at this point, nothing can stop me and nothing can hurt me. Somebody tried, sure, but it didn't work. I walked in here anyway. And honestly, I don't even know where the real Gucci is anymore. The last time I actually saw Gucci in person was way back at Patchwork Studio in 2000, and even on that day, something felt off. It wasn't just a vibe or a mood, it was like I was looking at his body, but the real person behind the eyes wasn't all the way there. You know how sometimes someone can be standing right in front of you, breathing, talking, moving, but it still feels like the soul you used to know isn't present? That's exactly how it felt. It was familiar and unfamiliar at the same time, like meeting a stranger wearing your friend's face. That moment stuck with me because it wasn't just a one-time weird feeling. Things kept getting stranger, little by little, until it eventually got so bad that I felt like I had no choice but to step in. I'm not someone who likes to interfere in people's personal lives, especially someone as private and guarded as Gucci. But when you care about someone, sometimes you end up in situations you never imagined. There came a point where everyone around him, associates, even people who barely knew him, could tell something was wrong. He wasn't himself. His moods were unpredictable. His reactions didn't make sense. His words were sharp, confusing, and sometimes just plain disturbing. It wasn't the Gucci people knew from the music or the interviews. This was something deeper, something darker. Like he was trapped inside his own mind and trying to fight his way out. I remember sitting there thinking that if we didn't do something soon, something terrible might happen. He clearly needed help, but he refused to get any. He wouldn't go to a doctor, wouldn't go to a hospital, wouldn't even listen to people trying to talk to him gently. He shut down emotionally, but became explosive in every other way. That combination is dangerous for anyone, especially someone already dealing with fame, pressure, and the constant noise of the industry. So I did something I never thought I would do. I called his attorney and said, "Look, he's not himself. We need to get him somewhere safe. We need help." The attorney agreed but didn't know what to do either. We weren't dealing with a simple situation. This was someone spiraling in real time. That's when I made the decision to contact security. Not one guy, not two multiple trained bodyguards. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. Gucci was strong, stubborn, and determined to avoid anyone who tried to push him toward treatment. Professionals who deal with mental health crises know how to de-escalate, but we didn't have that option at the time. We had urgency. We had people scared for him. And we had a man who was slipping further and further away from himself. I ended up planning the whole thing like an operation. It felt wrong and necessary at the same time. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be in that position, but watching someone you once recognized become someone you barely understand forces you into decisions that don't feel black or white. Sometimes everything turns gray. When the day came, the bodyguards moved in, and the moment they tried to get close to him, he exploded. He fought as if his life depended on staying exactly where he was. He swung, kicked, yelled, anything to avoid being taken. It was heartbreaking because every move he made wasn't coming from a place of clarity. It was fear and confusion driving him. You could see it in his eyes. He genuinely believed everyone around him was trying to harm him, not help him. But there were 6 of them, 6 strong, trained men, and, after a long struggle, they eventually managed to hold him down enough to get him into the vehicle. Even then, he fought the entire ride, screaming and pushing like he would rather break free and run into the street than sit still for 1 second. When they finally got him inside the hospital, the staff took over, and all I could do was stand there catching my breath, thinking about how surreal the whole situation felt. I didn't feel triumphant or proud. I felt sick to my stomach. No one wants to see someone they care about like that. No one wants to watch their friend being dragged into a hospital by force. But at that moment, it really felt like the only option we had left. It was a desperate move made in a desperate time. And even then, as I watched the doctors take him in, I couldn't shake the feeling that the person being admitted wasn't the Gucci I once knew. It was still his body, his face, his voice, but something deeper was missing. Something that used to shine through him wasn't shining anymore. That's the hardest part to explain. It wasn't just behavior. It was presence. It was spirit. People think moments like this are simple, like you call for help and things magically get better. But it doesn't work like that. Sometimes getting someone to safety is only the beginning. Sometimes the scariest part isn't the struggle outside the hospital, it's wondering what will happen after the doors close behind them, and whether the person you once knew will ever return. And that's why people keep asking, is Gucci Mane really in some kind of sunken place? Is there any truth to these cloning theories? Before anything else, let me say this clearly, nothing is confirmed. Everything online right now is just speculation, but his real fans are starting to worry. And honestly, you can't deny something about this whole situation feels off. Gucci doesn't just look different, he acts like a completely different person. Even the way his wife, Keisha, treats him feels strange, almost like she's looking after a child. It gives Get Out vibes. And sure, Gucci quit lean, lost weight, fixed his teeth. But this isn't just about looks. It feels deeper than a glow-up. If you watched Gucci's Breakfast Club interview with Keisha, you probably felt the same tension I did. The whole conversation was awkward. Like there was a wall between what was being said and what was actually happening behind the scenes. On the surface, it seemed like a normal celebrity interview. But if you paid attention, there were so many subtle clues that something deeper was going on. The way Gucci responded to questions, the way Keisha answered for him at times, the pauses, the odd shifts in tone, it all left you feeling unsettled, like you were watching someone being carefully guided through a script rather than speaking freely. During the interview, they revealed that Gucci had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. Now, I'm not here to question diagnoses or make judgments about mental health, but this isn't the first time we've seen labels like this thrown around in public for celebrities. Think about it. We've heard similar claims about Wendy Williams, and everyone later realized a lot of that reporting was exaggerated or completely false. The media loves to brand someone as mentally unstable, and once that label sticks, it's hard to separate fact from fiction. It's not just Wendy either. Britney Spears, Kanye West, Dave Chappelle. These are all high-profile cases where people were publicly framed as out of control or unwell. Often, they were heavily medicated, micromanaged, or controlled in ways that drastically changed their public image. And when they returned to the spotlight, many of them didn't just appear different, they seemed like entirely new versions of themselves, almost as if the person the public knew had been replaced by someone else. That's what makes the Gucci situation so hard to ignore. You can't just look at the diagnosis. You have to pay attention to the bigger picture, the way his personality, behavior, and interactions have changed, the people surrounding him, and how the story is being framed in public. The interview itself didn't answer these questions, it only hinted at them, which is why it felt both awkward and revealing. It's a pattern we've seen before. Mental health labels being used in ways that benefit someone other than the person at the center. And whether or not Gucci's diagnosis is accurate, the way it's presented raises questions. Are we seeing the real Gucci, or a carefully managed version designed to fit a narrative? It's that tension that makes watching the interview both uncomfortable and impossible to ignore. Gucci once said they tried to convince him he was the crazy one. They tried to put him on medications he didn't even need. But even if Gucci really does have schizophrenia, it still doesn't explain Keisha's behavior. Talking about mental health isn't the problem. It's how she talked about it. It almost felt like she was embarrassing him, reminding him in front of the world that he's sick and relies on her. She even made a point to say she's stronger than him because she doesn't have mental health issues. She said, "I have to take care of him first because he has mental health problems. I don't. I'm stronger than he is." Like, why even say that out loud? Then Charlemagne asked if she goes to therapy, and she responded, "No, I don't need one. I'm my own therapist." That's a huge red flag, because everybody knows caretakers usually need therapy the most. But she brushed it off like she was some kind of expert. And when she described his supposed episodes, she barely mentioned his feelings at all. She only talked about how she was affected, how he pushed her away, how he was disrespectful, how she didn't like how he made her feel. She even said that's why she planned his kidnapping, because he kept telling her, "I don't like you." She said the things he would say during those moments were really, really bad. She would have to stop, take a deep breath, and tell him, "I'm not talking to you right now. If you're going to sit here and be crazy, you're not doing it alone." And that's when she decided she needed a plan. She called his attorney, contacted bodyguards, and literally arranged a full-on kidnapping, just to force him into a hospital because according to her, they couldn't get him there any other way. Now look, yes, People with schizophrenia who are in the middle of a severe episode often refuse treatment. They may fight help, avoid hospitals, or become paranoid. That part is true. But involuntary hospitalization is supposed to be handled by trained professionals, EMTs, crisis teams, or police officers, not random bodyguards who have zero mental health training. The way Keshia talked about it, though, wasn't cautious or responsible. She described the whole thing like she was proud of organizing it. And honestly, it's not just odd, it's reckless to talk about something this serious so casually. If someone out there tried to copy this and didn't have real professionals involved, the situation could turn dangerous very quickly for everyone. And that's where the problem keeps showing itself. Keisha always places herself at the center of the story. I'm his therapist, I saved him, I planned the kidnapping. It almost feels like she wants Gucci to believe only she can handle him, and nobody else is capable of helping him. But then things get even stranger. People hear cloning and think of sci-fi labs and duplicates. But that's not the angle here. What people are actually talking about is more like mental programming using meds, manipulation, and control to change how a person thinks or behaves. And one story from Gucci's memoir stands out like a giant red flag. He once described standing outside on his porch for 24 hours straight during an episode, and this supposedly happened right after he went to the dentist and was put under anesthesia for dental work. That detail matters, because it almost sounds like whatever programming he was under glitched after the anesthesia wore off. And here's why the dentist part made people raise their eyebrows. Remember, when Kanye admitted he got hooked on nitrous oxide, the gas dentists use after a dentist gave it to him? Ryan Garcia even joked about it publicly, saying he took nitrous at the dentist and suggested it to anyone stressed out. But Kanye's situation was different. According to Milo Yiannopoulos, Kanye's former chief of staff, Kanye's private dentist, Dr. Thomas Connolly, wasn't just using nitrous during procedures, he was allegedly supplying Kanye with nitrous for recreational use. Milo claimed this was one of the main reasons Kanye's behavior changed so dramatically. And when you see what that dentist looks like, let's just say you don't have to judge a book by its cover to feel uneasy. Milo didn't hold back. He went on X Twitter and said, "It is my belief that Connolly sought to diminish Ye's mental faculties, so that Connolly and his business associates could extract millions of dollars from him." In another post, Milo called Dr. Connolly a dangerous man who targets black celebrities. He said Connolly was putting fake diamonds in their teeth, encouraging people with addiction and mental health histories to use nitrous at home without any medical supervision, and showing zero concern about the permanent damage it could cause to their brain or body. Now, I'm not saying anything for sure, but something tells me if we dug into Dr. Connolly's past, we might find some connections to Kanye's so-called personal trainer, the one who threatened to send Kanye back to Zombieland. Turns out, that trainer used to work for the Canadian military and did research into mind-altering substances. So, what's up with all these weird dentists and handlers around celebrities? It makes you pause, right? Gucci reportedly had an episode after a dentist visit, and Kanye's dentist allegedly got him hooked on nitrous oxide, and now, both of them look and act like completely different people. All of this brings to mind MKUltra, and no, this isn't some conspiracy theory. The CIA actually admitted to running secret programs in the 1950s and 60s under the codename MKUltra, using medications and brainwashing techniques on people. Some experiments were done with volunteers, but a huge part involved prisoners, psychiatric patients, homeless people, even sex workers, people who had no idea what was happening. MKUltra itself is a massive rabbit hole, and I suggest doing your own research. Officially, the CIA claims it ended, but do you really think such programs just vanished overnight? Here's a wild part. Back in 2016, when rumors started that Gucci had been replaced, the CIA actually made a statement saying Gucci is not a clone. Their spokesperson told BuzzFeed, "Internet rumors are not news, and the Office of Public Affairs will not waste time on them." Even so, it makes you wonder, why would the CIA feel the need to address a rumor about a rapper being cloned? And if human cloning is still considered fiction, why does it even come up in public discussions? Even Cat Williams weighed in, talking about how, yes, animal cloning is real. You can lose a pet, send it away, and have a cloned version returned to you. So, we know the science exists, just not for humans. At least officially now. Here's the real question. Is any of this happening to humans? Could there be some truth behind the Gucci MKUltra theory? And what role does Keisha play in all of this? Is she really helping? Or is she part of the story in a bigger way? I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think this is just internet conspiracy talk, or is there something deeper going on with Gucci? Drop your comments below, and don't miss the next video. We're just getting started.